everybody. I'm Deborah Piguet. Welcome to Winning with Deborah, where people turn to learn. Each week, we seek to gain from the experience and knowledge of believers who can help you succeed relationally, physically, emotionally, or financially. We want you to be informed and transformed as you learn how to apply the Word of God to every aspect of your life. Now, today we're going to sit down with a human resources professional, and we're going to learn about how to succeed in getting a job and advancing your career. Now, if you're your own boss, that's great. But if your current situation is that you work for someone else, then there are strategies and mindsets that you have to employ in order to have a rewarding experience. Some of you may still be in the job hunting phase, or maybe you are so frustrated because you're just kind of ready to throw in the towel, and maybe you've already have a job perhaps and you desire a promotion, but it just seems that you keep getting passed over. Well, our guest today has been where you are. In fact, she was stuck in the unemployment jungle so long that her faith almost failed, along with her self-esteem. Jennifer Cajas is a single parent, and she juggles the load of raising 2 children while working full-time, adding value to others and serving God. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration and a master's degree in organizational leadership. She not only has a wealth of experience and knowledge, but she has been proactive in investing in her personal development, strengthening her faith, and learning from the mistakes of others. Her story will inspire you to trust God no matter where you are, no matter what you're believing for. Jennifer, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah. I'm so delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I met you a few weeks ago, and I was so impressed with your testimony. I really wanted you to come on the program. So just for starters, since I just explained to people that we have believers to come in, tell us about your journey to Jesus.
Well, I've been going to church since I was a child. There was a neighborhood church that would pick up children by the busloads and bring them in. So I'm just so grateful that God and I established our relationship early on.
That's great. So, and you have a family. Tell us about your family.
Yes, I do have a wonderful little family. I have a 16-year-old son named Andre and an 8-year-old daughter named Isabella.
Oh, great. And they're beautiful children. I've seen them. Now, listen, I want you to tell us your story, because I really want to get into that and how you were unemployed. And my heart kind of bled for you as you went through it. But then you ended by inspiring us all. So just kind of give us the highlights of your story and what that felt like being employed for such an extended period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've been working in human resources and management for 17 years. I found myself in a position where I wasn't really growing. I went back to finish graduate school, and I thought that, you know what, Lord, this is it. I'm going to finish my education. I'm going to put in some hard work, volunteer for projects. And when that didn't happen, I became so disappointed. And when the Lord removed me from that role, I decided to pursue avenues that I felt were a better opportunity for me.
Now, Jennifer, let me stop you there, because you are already a human resources professional, and so you knew all the things to do to get a job. It just wasn't working. I mean, what made you in the first place decide to go down that route to be to major in human resources type activity?
I love helping people. I'm passionate about helping people find, pursue their talents, their passion, developing, coaching, mentoring. It's really something that gets me out of bed every morning. And, with that, it just kind of found me.
Yeah, I bet when you were unemployed, though, did you feel like kind of like when they told Jesus, heal yourself, physicians, or whatever it was, save yourself? You knew what to do, and just wasn't working. And so let me let you complete the story. So how long were you unemployed?
For a few months, I was applying, I was networking, I was being assertive, I was reaching out to contacts to get my name out there. And it just became very discouraging after applying and interviewing and not getting any job offers. I became very saddened. And, I started to think negatively and not have confidence in my abilities, and applied for positions that were more entry level. So here I am being, in a mid-level or senior manager role, applying for coordinator, generalist positions that are more entry level, like I said, and still not getting those job offers.
Do you recommend that? I mean, how do employers perceive that if you come in with all these qualifications and then, but you're applying for a job here? Aren't they suspect that you probably won't stay?
That is true. But, you can look at it two ways.
Okay.
So number one, it's sometimes you have to take 2 steps backwards in your career in order to move forward to what your long-term goal is. So developing that plan early on, I think, is important. So for me, getting my foot in the door with the large organization or a corporation that had a lot of the values and benefits that I was looking for, that was kind of my first strategy. And it did not work for me.
but when you, in your position now, and you see someone who will come in and they apply for those low positions, what do you think though? Do you ask the person? Because I know there's so many things you can't ask a person these days, and maybe we'll get into that. But what do you say, and how do you perceive that person? If you're sitting here and that person is sitting there, and that person is qualified to be president of the company, what do you say?
I ask them. And, sometimes people want to take a step back and try something different. There's a lot that comes with being in a leadership position. You're responsible for people. You're responsible for the vision, carrying out the mission, and all of these responsibilities. So sometimes people want to take a step back, or sometimes are just looking, some people might look at it as a stepping stone to get to their next step.
Okay, and that's okay.
I wouldn't recommend it if your long-term vision for yourself is to be in a higher position.
Okay, because it works in the entertainment industry, because you just go and you don't mind making copies and doing stuff just to get your foot in the door, and that's good. And you can't have so much pride that you'll say, I'm not taking that.
Absolutely. And I think the biggest lesson through this, God had shown me to have humility, that it's okay to do those things. And I think as a servant leader, I think it's important to serve others. Just because I'm a manager doesn't mean I'm going to not help make copies. I'm not going to help do the day-to-day. I would never ask my staff to do anything that I wouldn't do myself.
And that had to be a very humbling process, though, to have all your credentials and couldn't find a job. So I'm sure God was working humility on several levels, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was very hard. And there was times that I was worried, how am I going to pay for this bill? How am I going to pay for that bill? Being a single parent, you have 2 children that are depending on you. You can't let them down. And there was moments that I would just sit and cry and pray and say, my God, please reveal to me what it is. What is the lesson here? What is the direction, Lord? I know that you've revealed my purpose. It's to help people. It's to guide. It's to coach. How can I get there? Mm-hmm. But then I would think about my daughter and my son, and know that they're looking up to me to model the way for them. And you cannot be defeated. God didn't create us in his image to live a defeated life. He wants us to prosper. He wants us to have a beautiful life.
And so during this process, when you decided that you needed to go and just kind of work on some more personal development, you felt like you needed to get to know yourself. We talked earlier about that. What does that mean, get to know yourself? Who doesn't know themselves?
Well, number one, I decided to find my identity in Christ, what God had for me, what was his purpose and his vision for my life. And I did that by spending time alone, reading the Bible. I actually traveled. I got the courage to go to Europe by myself last year for the first time.
Even though you were unemployed?
Oh,
well,
no,
that's an act of faith.
So it was a process. There was different phases too before I got unemployed. So I think it started in 2017. Right before I was going to finish grad school, I wanted to spend time with myself and God, really seeking him and putting him first, and knowing what it was that I wanted to do in my life. Okay. What direction was I going to take it? Secondly, I invested in attending some personal development workshops and hiring a life coach that really helped me create an individual development plan for myself. And then from there, things just started working out together.
What did you learn about yourself? Did you learn that you were indeed still in the right profession? Sometimes people will just kind of, when you do that kind of introspection, you'll say, I don't really like accounting. For instance, I majored in accounting, and I do it because it yields income. Yeah. But I think I'm more into helping people develop now, though. So you found out as you were doing this self-discovery that you still like this field that you've chosen.
Yeah, absolutely. I was working at the government. I was working for the government at the time, and it was very structured, it was very political, and it wasn't an environment where I can thrive, where I could be creative, where I could be innovative. I was given a lot of different assignments and projects. However, I was still not aligned with that purpose and that development plan that I created for myself. So I kind of feel like me being unemployed or taking my career in a different direction was divine intervention.
Well, and I like the fact that you said that you invested in personal development and that kind of thing, because I find a lot of people don't want to do that. And it reminds me of the scripture in Proverbs 23. It's Proverbs 23:23. I want to read it. It says, buy the truth and do not sell it. Also wisdom and instruction and understanding. Buy it, invest in it, invest in wisdom and understanding and instruction. And I think that's a good a challenge that I think people need to embrace, because a lot of people just don't want to spend the money. I remember when I first wanted to become an author, and I took this class, and the class was 10 grand.
Oh my
But it was a class on how to be $1 million author.
Wow.
Yeah, they taught you how to sell millions of books. Well, to date, I've sold millions of books. I'm not a millionaire though, but I've sold millions of books, got like a penny each, but just kidding. But at any rate, it was worth it, because they taught you the how-tos and all of that. And we can't emphasize that strongly enough. Whatever it is you need to do to improve yourself, and then to listen to people and not be so proud that you say, no, if they tell you something about yourself, like this one young man that I was kind of counseling, he really had, so he needed some dental work, and hardly anybody's going to tell you anything like that, right? So he's interviewing, and I'm thinking, you need to fix this problem here. You need to fix this problem. But at any rate, so you did a lot of personal development. Let's Jennifer, get into some of the biggest mistakes people make in job hunting. And let's just kind of park there for a while, because I know a lot of people are probably in the process and maybe doing some of the wrong things.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to develop a growth mindset.
A growth mindset.
Yes, absolutely. And some of the mistakes that people are doing is they're kind of stuck on a position or an opportunity where there could be something that's analogous to it in a different industry. Don't be afraid to try different industries. So I went from working for government administration to working in the automotive industry.
What?
And, I was brave to apply. Back to my unemployment story, it's amazing how God just works.
Tell us about it.
So a friend sent me a picture of a job posting for a human resources director position. And I thought, HR director, am I ready for that? Is that something that I could be even qualified for? But, I took the courage and confidence that, if this is for me, all of the education and the experience that I've invested in my personal development, then it was going to happen. And, I went through the whole interview process, and, I applied. I went through the first interview, the second, and I got the position.
Wow. But before you got the position, there were some things that had to be done. You had to negotiate the salary, and I guess we'll get into that when we talk about the other mistakes people make. But was that kind of scary, because you knew you were up against like a number of people?
Absolutely. So this position was through a headhunter service. So if that's a mistake that people don't use, in this job market, there's more applicants than there's more positions than there is applicants. So working with a headhunter, it's important, they kind of work for you. They're your advocate, your agent. They can present you and have connections to organizations that you may not have known of. And this is how this position came about. So during the interviewing and negotiation process, the headhunter recommended that I lower my salary requirement, because I was competing against people that had double the experience that I had.
Okay.
And that was difficult for me to kind of process, because I felt like I was the right candidate for the position. I had experience, I had value.
But you needed a job too.
Absolutely. I was very excited to get back into the workforce and for this opportunity. But that's when your faith comes in. That's when you have to sit back and think, Lord, is this the direction that you want me to go in? Is this my purpose? Is this where I will be, helping people? Okay. Or I will be.
So you weren't anxious. You weren't anxious at all about the fact that if I stay with this salary requirement, even though I need a job, because I'm not sure what I should advise people to do with that. If you need a job, you need a job.
Absolutely, and I definitely needed a job.
But I also know that women, for the most part, we tend to kind of not want to offend anybody with that big requirement. So we'll just kind of go with it and be frustrated about it, right?
No, absolutely. Women need to negotiate their salaries. Some studies show that we are paid 80%, 80 cents to the dollar that a man does. And a lot of it is being afraid to ask, having that boldness and confidence that you're just as qualified, and asking for your salary requirements. But I think it's important to know in advance for the position that you're applying for. I think research is critical to that. So I know we're going to talk about that.
Well, let's talk about that though. The biggest mistakes people make, and so you did hold your guns there and stick to your guns, and you got the salary that you wanted.
Yes, thank God for that. I was so excited. Yes, it was a 20-minute process, but it felt like we were going back and forth for hours. And I was bold and confident that if this is the place that I was called to be and to serve others, then it was going to be at a salary that I would be comfortable with, that I would be happy and excited to work there. And I'm so grateful that the organization that I work for now feels the exact same way.
Well, you know what I'm hearing you say? I'm hearing you say, okay, be prepared and be confident, but that confidence has to come from the faith that you have in God's ability to open the door. And I think that sometimes there's a tension there between how much should I rely on my preparedness versus how much should I just walk by faith. And I think you have to marry the two.
Absolutely. There's a saying to say faith without works is dead. You have to put in the work, put in the action. You put a plan together. And, a strategy that I developed was I was going to apply for 50 jobs a day.
Okay, that's a good strategy.
And
that's a full-time career just applying for the job. Okay, 50 jobs a day.
Even let's say you set a benchmark at 20 applications a day. Okay. We're in the information age, so it doesn't require you to leave home. You can be in your pajamas applying for different positions online. There's so many resources out there. Updating your LinkedIn profile. Ensuring that your most up-to-date resume is posted.
Okay.
Also, there's some websites like Glassdoor.com.
Glassdoor.com. What is that?
So it's a website where you can go in and anonymously review companies that you've worked for. So employees can go in and talk about their compensation, their benefits, and it's completely anonymous. Oh. And so it's a very good resource.
Oh, that's great. So we talked about the fact that people need to research and understand what the pay rate is. And you mentioned when we were in the green room about the fact that pay rates may differ based on regions.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different demographics. We're in California here. So LA County has a higher minimum wage than you would have in the Inland Empire.
Okay. So you got to know so that you don't ask for something that's way out of the range.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And there's other sites like payscale.com.
Okay.
Where you can look up different salary ranges per different positions in different regions.
Okay, that sounds good. And you talked also about the fact that you have to have confidence, that's important, that you show up believing God, believing something, that you're going to be the one that's chosen.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what should you not say? We talked about also career building. Like once you're in the door and you really would like to negotiate a raise or ask for a promotion later, what are some things you should not say in terms of asking for a raise in particular? Because we really want to empower people here today.
Well, okay, so it's two different things. So if you're currently at a company and you're looking for a raise or you want to show your value, it's important. What's going to distinct you from someone else in the position that you're currently in. I used to keep track of different projects that I would work on and just milestones and track my own progress and kind of keep a little memo and give it to my manager and say, hey, this is what I've done for you lately. This is how I'm continuously improving and growing and looking for that next step.
Now, you just mentioned something that brought memory back to me. When I was in corporate America, and I've been out for a minute, but I had to go to a special training for all of us who were on what they call the fast track, and we had to actually meet with a psychologist, and so that he could get into our success mentality. But this is one of the things he told us to do. He said, keep a file called the OBM file, Oh Bad Me. And in that file, everything that you've ever done during the year, even if you worked on a team that wasn't a part of your normal responsibility, if you temporarily had to manage something, whatever you did that added value to the company, he said just keep a record of it. And when it's time for your review, you bring that out and say, also during the year I did this and that, and you have a basis for asking for a raise. But we know that the one thing that is not a basis for a raise is what?
Tenure.
Tenure. I've been here a long
Expectation.
time.
Yes, it's me. I've been doing this job for a long time. You can't do it without me. So attitude is important.
Okay.
Having a positive attitude, being the one that contributes to the team when morale is low, keep people engaged. Even if you're not in a leadership position, I think it's important to be, an influencer to the others. You can show your leadership. Sometimes you can lead from the middle. You influence your managers, and then you also influence your subordinates or, your coworkers.
Well, and I know probably the biggest thing, and I want to just say this to women, is that never ask, or men really, never ask for a raise based on the fact that you need it, your own economic need, because that's not relevant to the job. You can't say, I need a raise because I just had a baby, or my wife just had a baby, or whatever, because your economic situation is not relevant to the job. You ask for a raise based on what you brought to the table, your qualifications, what the job pays in the market. And so I just want to kind of throw that out there, that people might want to make sure you do that, because that's a big turnoff. That's a big turnoff.
Absolutely.
Now, you talked about managing up and managing down. Most people don't know how to manage their bosses. What are some ways that you got to make sure? Give us some tips on managing our bosses.
You know what? There's a saying that says, "When your boss shines, so do you."
Okay.
So don't think of it's like my work. It's a team. Have that team mindset, and they usually have a lot of things on their plate as well. So you can develop your competitive advantage by showing them the value that you bring to the team as a whole, to the organization. You support them. You communicate with them.
But suppose they're mean.
And I've had a few of those.
How do you handle a mean boss? Let's just get real. How do you handle a mean boss who's just like the devil's brother?
You know what? I would pray on it and ask for some type of favor, from God, and also just stick to the work. I think being professional, no matter what, you can't control your environment, you can't control the people that you're working with, but you control yourself.
Yes.
So you keep that positive attitude. You keep going and work as if you're working for the Lord.
Oh, that is so good. Because you know what? There's a scripture that talks about that. Whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord and not unto man. That was my salvation when I was working in corporate America. I just worked as if God's going to check it. So I want it to be excellent because God is going to check it.
Yes.
He's going to evaluate it. And I think that is so good to just put that out there, because a lot of times people would get perturbed that they didn't get the raise or whatever, and they start to be resentful. And, so I think those are all things that you don't want to do. You just want to make sure that you maintain a good attitude, that you're excellent. But I also believe that you should confront a mean boss. I do. And now that word scares people, but it's all it means is coming together face to face and to say, I really want to support you. And I noticed that you seem pretty frustrated or more critical than I felt you need to be or whatever. Then I just tell me how I can support you better, because I'm here to support you. And I think if you let that be made known and don't criticize the boss in front of everybody else, don't criticize them, period.
Absolutely. I think public confrontation it could be detrimental to your career. It's about having respect and tact in different situations, but then it's also just important for you to set your boundaries, and everyone should be treated with respect in the workplace. We're all there for a reason. We all need to work. And another tip when you're working with difficult people or a difficult manager, I think, is focus on the service that you're providing. Okay. Focus on your customers. Focus on the value that you're bringing to the community.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's almost time to wrap up, and I just got to pick your brain on one more thing, because a lot of women feel like they have to manage like a man. They need to be tough and rough. Is there anything that we bring to the table, I would say, as a woman that really is a plus, rather than trying to manage like a man? In fact, I'm working on a book called Lead Like a Lady, so give me some feedback here.
Okay. I think just being confident in who you are and your qualifications, and you're in your role for a reason, and not being afraid to speak up, not being afraid to ask for what you want.
Right.
Just like we talked about negotiating a salary, not being afraid to ask for competitive wages or that promotion, or stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I love
important.
it. Well, our time is up, but I want you just in case there's somebody out there who's just in the throes of job hunting or feeling stuck in their career, do you have any parting words of encouragement you'd like to offer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. I just want to say that if you're at a crossroads in your career, have confidence in yourself and your abilities and your purpose. Don't be afraid to walk in it. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Believe it and receive it. Thank you.
Amen. That's great. Well, listen, Jennifer, it's been a pleasure having you here. I wish you the best in your new position.
Thank you.
I know you're going to do well, and I know that just your presence there is going to be great. I'm reminded that the Bible says that promotion doesn't come from the east or the west or the south. It says that in Psalm 75:6. But it's God. He puts up one and he takes down another. And I just know that. I just say that to anybody who's looking for a job today, just to know that ultimately the promotion comes from God.
Absolutely.
And that's what we got to keep our mind on. And we have to remember that because we're children of God, we're righteous, we're in right standing, that we are surrounded with favor. So I'd like to leave that as a scripture that it says, for surely, O Lord, you bless the righteous. You surround them with favor like a shield. That's Psalms 5:12. And so I just wish you the best. And I know that you are surrounded with favor like a shield. And so God bless you today. Thank you for joining this empowering program on finding a job and advancing your career. What a comfort to know that according to Psalms 139:16, all the days ordained for you were written in his book before one of them came to be. We can rest assured that God has a place for each of us, and no man can thwart it. So wherever you are in your employment journey, be encouraged. Don't develop a victim's mindset. Keep a good attitude. Keep honing your skills and being excellent at your work. And most of all, listen for God's instructions regarding your next steps. He just may be allowing roadblocks to force you out of your comfort zone and into the next phase of his plan. Well, that's all we have time for today. If this program has blessed or impacted you in any way, I would love to hear your comments. Please visit me on Facebook at Winning with Deborah or on my website, winningwithdeborah.com. And there you may read an excerpt from my book, 30 Days to a Stronger, More Confident You, and find other empowering publications and products that are sure to strengthen you in your Christian walk. So until next time, have a winning week.